Legerdemain. I'm sure most of you have heard of it. Legerdemain is Gregor's incredible base ego that... Wait, what? It's not his base ego. Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot. It's just that, well, nobody uses Sunly one day. Anyway, Legerdemain is Gregor's incredible ego from the Season 1 Limbus pass, but why is it so good? Is it actually as good as people say? Let's start with the stats. At Threadspin 3, Legerdemain has an attack weight of 3, burst tremor, inflicts 4 tremor, and on heads hit, inflicts 4 paralyze. It costs 10 sanity, 1 sloth ego resource, and 3 gluttony resources to use, although it refunds 1 gluttony on use. It's a gluttony skill. It has a range of 18 to 23, which is what some other Zayan egos, like everyone's favorite The Odyssey at a Purpose or Snag Harpoon, roll as their maximum. At this point, I'll just say it up front. You could remove both the Tremor Burst and Tremor Infliction, and this ego would still be phenomenal. It's an extremely cheap AoE option that rolls decently, which is great for clearing out hordes of blunt weak enemies in Mirror Dungeon 2, but the main focus of the ego is the Paralyze. Paralyze is an absurdly powerful status effect for winning clashes, and a consistent, cheap source of Paralyze that you can use in a clash or as an unopposed attack to make your other teammates have easier or guaranteed clash wins is really good. And we haven't even talked about the passive yet. Legerdemain's passive is as follows. On hit, inflict 5 maggots at a Gluttony Absolute Resonance times 8% chance. You might be wondering, what is maggots? Or, I guess, what are maggots? Well, maggots is a status effect that's unique to Legerdemain. If a creature has maggots at the end of a turn, they take gluttony damage by the count, lower it by 1, and get +1 bleed count. It's free damage that has a chance of activating on every hit, so it's a good passive on an already really good ego. However, you might be thinking to yourself, well, wait, the Paralyze from Legerdemain isn't guaranteed, it's tied to heads hit. And yeah, you'd be right. At least at Threadspin 3, that is. But, as we already established, Legerdemain isn't a base ego, and therefore, it has a corrosion. Legerdemain's corrosion has a -14 tails coin, giving it a range of 14 to 28. It targets randomly, has an attack weight of 3, costs 20 sanity instead of 10, and inflicts 4 bleed, 4 maggots, and 4 paralyze on hit. No heads required. Now, there is no negative sanity focused Gregor identity, so you'll get a roll of 14 with Legerdemain's corrosion most of the time. But, as already established, you can just use an unopposed attack to get the main benefit, which is the guaranteed paralyze. However, if you have resources to spare, this doesn't even matter, as we still haven't talked about Threadspin 4. At Threadspin 4, Legerdemain gains 2 buffs to the Awakening skill and 1 buff to the Corrosion. The Corrosion inflicts 6 maggots instead of 4. Whatever, we don't really care about that. The Awakening skill inflicts 6 tremor instead of 4. Whatever, we don't really care about that. The only meaningful buff from Threadspin 4, and coincidentally, the only buff Legerdemain really needed, was changing the Awakening skill from 4 paralyze on heads hit to 4 paralyze on hit. Now, there might still be a question from the audience. Why are you so sure that Gregor will be in a position to go first, or at the very least early enough that his paralysis affects multiple clashes? And that's a very valid question. Most of the identities currently in the meta have a speed range that's equal to or greater than the speed range of most of Gregor's identities. However, there's a recently released Gregor identity that I'm personally a big fan of that I think has solved this issue. Zwei Association South Section 4 Gregor. He has all the necessary sins to single-handedly fuel Legerdemain, and he's the fastest of all the Gregors, with a speed range of 4 to 8. Not only that, his skill 1 self-applies haste next turn, so he has an easy way to boost his speed if necessary. He's also quite tanky, and as the community has been realizing recently, tanks are actually really good, especially in Mirror Dungeon 2 Hard. Also, as just a little cherry on top, his skill 2 is a Gluttony Affinity skill with 4 coins, which is great at triggering Legerdemain's passive. So, overall, Legerdemain really is that good. It's a great showcase of how such a simple effect can be incredible in the right conditions, and if you have it, you should pretty much always use it. At the time of recording, all Gregor identities have either Gluttony or Sloth, so unless you're using Leo Gregor in a burn team with literally 0 Gluttony, you should always take Legerdemain. It might just save your life, even at Threadspin 1. Thank you so much for watching the video. This is the first video I've made in this format, and I'm working on a similar but much more lengthy and in-depth video that covers the Blade lineage identities. So, if you'd be interested in seeing that, please like the video and hit the subscribe button. It'd mean a lot to me.